Are you ready?
Hello, and welcome to the Whole House Podcast, where we promise to bring you home, health, and family all in one place. We're a blog team trying our hand at podcasting, and we like to compare our different purposes and giftings and strengths to the rooms in a house. Together, we make up the whole house. So grab a cup of coffee and join our overly caffeinated team here for the Whole House Podcast.
Hi, today at the Whole House we're doing just a little coffee break, and we're going to talk about home administration. Women, did you know that you are the administrator in your home? And not only are you the boss,
You're also the employee.
so we're going to talk about that a little bit today and how we sometimes as women set unrealistic expectations of ourselves and have long to-do lists and get overwhelmed when we can't complete everything on our to-do list. And we need to make sure that our priorities are met first, and we need to decide what those priorities are. Because often the temporal things that get right in our face are the things that we attend to very quickly and use all of our time up and forget to spend time on the eternal things. And at the end of the day, we're exhausted and upset with ourselves that we didn't meet those goals that we had written down.
Right. So I'm going to read an excerpt from a book called Fit to Burst by Rachel Yankovic. And the title, it's Fit to Burst, and it's Abundance, Mayhem, and the Joys of Motherhood. And the chapter I'm reading from is called The Mean Boss. And so I'm just going to paraphrase really quick to give you some reference. She's talking about how her husband came home one night, and she immediately started complaining to him about all of the things that she didn't get done that day, about not being able to clean the bathroom that hadn't been cleaned for a couple weeks, and everything that she didn't get done. And then she says this: "It just hit me all of a sudden how funny it was that I was sitting there complaining about my own job performance. And I was telling my husband all of the ways I was better than this. Not in those words, of course. I was just itemizing the things I hadn't gotten to with a critical spirit. I was picking on myself, but I was doing it with a part of myself that didn't want to take any responsibility for what happened. The critical, complaining part of me was the mean boss. The part of me that failed to get it done during the course of the day was the employee. In this particular situation, I was bringing out the mean boss in order to make the employee look bad. It was her fault. I clearly expected a lot more of her. She is a failure. Let me take a moment to distance my leadership from her performance." And then I realized suddenly that this was at the heart of the constant tension in my work at home. I am in charge both of setting the goals and expectations and following through on them. I am both the boss and the employee. It can be phrased another way that may feel more familiar to many of you. How can you care enough to try, but not care so much that you lose it when you fail? How can you be motivated to work hard on something that will, in all likelihood, fall apart sometime in the near future? How can you aspire to have a productive Saturday, but hold it loosely when it doesn't happen? How can you both work diligently on a to-do list and cheerfully lay it down when you are interrupted? This is where we can easily put on the persona of the beat-up employee. I tried, but I'm not good enough to do it. I was working on that, but things kept happening, and I lost track of it. I wanted to get the house together today, but I didn't because I'm like that. I'm a failure. I can't do anything. I should clearly be fired." So then she goes on to talk about how she made this huge to-do list, but she still had to take care of her toddler, and she was pregnant, and she had some older kids, but she kept getting frustrated about the fact that she wasn't getting to the bathroom. And then she says, "When you are a mother and a homemaker, you are your own boss. The days are what you make of them. The tasks that need to get done are put on a list at your discretion. This means that you must be leadership material. At the same time, what you're getting done is up to you too. You have to be a hardworking employee. The part of you that decides where to go must work with the part of you that needs to go there. Making a list that you cannot accomplish does not make you a better housewife. It makes you a bad leader. Snarking at yourself just makes you a bad leader who is also mean. So basically, she's saying that making a really long to-do list that you're not going to accomplish is not making you a better housewife. If you are really being honest with yourself and looking at your day and thinking, my first priority, which always your first priority, should be taking care of my husband and my children. And if you're putting that first and you're making those things the top things on your to-do list, getting school done with your kids, making sure that you have time to play with them, and then you're putting your other housework, your household work on the bottom of the list, then at the end of the day, you're probably going to feel more accomplished because you spent time doing the important things on your to-do list and not the things that can come later and should come later.
Right, and I think that we'll just back it up here for a minute, because for some of you listening, this may be a totally new concept, that you are the boss and the employee in your home. And whether you made the decision to stay at home full-time or you're working part-time, and you are the manager of your home, which means that you get to mostly make the rules. And I'm not talking about your children not crying when you don't want them to cry. I'm talking about the agenda. You get to set the agenda, and you set the tone of the home. The woman sets the tone of the home, whether she has children at home or not, because we were just talking about this today in the Whole House Coffee Live, where often if I put too much on my agenda, and I only have, out of my 7 children, I only have 2 left at home, and they're adulting some of the time.
Somewhat.
And I still will make these ginormous to-do lists because I'm also an author now and a speaker. And when my husband comes home and I'm wiped out and I have a snarky attitude and I'm not worth being around, then that's my fault.
Yes,
not his fault and not my schedule's fault. I made the schedule.
Let me add that not only does she have 2 children living at home, all of her children contact her throughout the day with needs.
Yes, my house, I joke that my house is like a giant revolving door. And so we ended up, instead of having a lock on the back door, now we just have a keypad so that my adult children...
Yeah.
No, I'm not giving out the code because you can't come over and make coffee, so that they can just use the code because they're constantly coming. So no matter what age and stage you are in your life, maybe this is a new concept to you. Maybe you feel like totally everything is out of control in your home and you don't realize that you have some power.
Right.
And that power is to decide what's going to be done during the day. And the important part of it is not to live in a pit of self-loathing and frustration because you decided to do or bite off more than you can chew in one day.
Right. So for me right now in my stage of life, I am in the little child stage of life. And so for me, at the end of a bad day, a day where I feel like I didn't accomplish anything on my to-do list, my kitchen is still clean, I didn't vacuum my living room floor, the playroom is a mess, and all of these things, and I'm just sitting there and complaining because I kept trying to do things all day, and my kids kept, quote unquote, getting in the way, then at the end of the day, not only do I have a bad attitude, but my kids are more likely to be throwing fits when I ask them to do things, or being upset and falling on the floor and crying and all of these things. And it's because all day I've been telling them, no, be quiet, stop, I need to do this. No, be quiet, stop, I need to do this. And that's all they've heard from me all day long. And so it's not a productive way in any way, shape, or form. Whereas at the end of the day, if I instead, which let me just say that those days have been happening more frequent for me because I just had my third baby, and so I feel like all I'm doing right now is nursing a baby and then trying to balance keeping my kitchen from getting moldy and having two little girls that need my attention all the time. So, but the thing is that if I instead made it a priority to, when my little girl comes over and asks to play in the kitchen sink, then I say, you know what, yes, you can play in this kitchen sink, instead of saying no, because I want to clean up the kitchen right now. Or I just cleaned it and it needs to stay clean. If I say yes, then my daughter's attitude at the end of the day is going to be better. And it's just because she was not told no constantly over and over again. So imagine that you're an adult and you go and you're thinking, I really need a cup of coffee right now. And every time you go up to the cup of coffee, which obviously this happens with toddlers sometimes, you go up to get your coffee and somebody smacks your hand and it's like, no, you can't have that right now. Or you go to sit on the couch and just when the kids are playing quietly and you go and sit on the couch because you just need a moment and somebody smacks you on the hand and says, no, you can't do that right now.
Right, and that's, that was another thing that we talked about at the Whole House Life Coffee, was saying yes, being able to just take that time and say yes. And that really all goes back to, before you make your to-do list, decide what your family vision is. What's your mission? Why are you staying home? What is your purpose? And if your purpose is to connect with your children and to make memories and help them develop their character and help them to develop skills and grow their brains, then you need to be making sure that you are using investment parenting. You're investing the time in them. Now, if your mission is to be on the cover of House Beautiful every day, and that's why sometimes it's dangerous for me to be on social media, because I look at these perfect, beautiful, here's my living room today, and I'm like, okay, if that is my aspiration, then I can't expect to meet my other goals.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those people. That's their job. Those are wonderful pages to look at. But at the same time, I have to decide for myself what's my vision. For example, when I have a deadline coming up with a book, then my room looks like an explosion of cardboard boxes because I decided to clean out my closet when I had a book deadline, which is not a very good priority right now.
Like that.
And one thing that my stepfather Bud used to say to me that has really, really stuck with me my whole life, he said this to me in college when I was very overwhelmed with planning my wedding, taking finals, was something's got to give.
Yeah.
And if you're not careful, it's going to be you.
Yeah.
So let the something be something else.
Yes.
Let it be the dishes for the day.
And if you do go to bed with, and I'm sure all of you have, if you go to bed with a dirty house, you're not going to wake up in the morning and something got stuck in my throat. When you wake up in the morning, everybody is still going to be alive. Your children are still going to be starting a new happy day. And you're still going to have your family, and you're still going to have all of these things that are really the most important thing. And it doesn't really matter that you walk into, it may make you feel a little frustrated when you walk into the kitchen, but then that means that's your attitude that needs to change, is that you should wake up and say, well, I am so happy that my children all woke up healthy, and I woke up healthy, and yesterday we had a good day.
Exactly. And
start out thinking, today we're going to have a good day too. Don't walk into the kitchen and think, oh my gosh, now I have to deal with this. Because then that helps set the tone for the whole day, and you're going to have a really bad day.
Exactly. And I was visiting my brother and my sister-in-law, and their Pastor Chad, gave a sermon while I was there, and he was using the illustration of a jar and big stones, like putting, I don't know if you've all heard that illustration where you take, to set your priorities, you take the big stones first and put them in the jar. Those are your major priorities, and then next you put the sand in and the gravel, and those are the things on the fringes. Well, he said, don't do the sand and don't do the gravel, because the truth is you can only do a few things well.
Yeah.
So what you have to decide are, what are those few things? What is my vision? What is my mission? And of course, one of the stones needs to be your relationship with God. So that time should be there. And then one of your stones should be, if it is your family, then that should be what you're investing your time in.
Right.
Whether it's taking the kids to the trail to ride their bikes, or having a picnic outside, or it's taking a bubble bath in the middle of the day, right, just because you have one of those cupcake, whatever that thing is.
Fizz bath bombs.
Fizz bath bombs. You know, those sorts of things. Those are investments into your child, and teach them how to sew, or taking them rock climbing if they're teenage boys. I'm not saying take a 2-year-old rock climbing.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. Those are investing, and those are the kinds of things that sometimes people don't put on their to-do lists.
Right.
Because they don't think they're things that are things you check off and you should feel a sense of satisfaction in. And you should, just as much as restoring a piece of furniture or having a clean kitchen, which you know as a wife and a mom that your clean kitchen is probably going to last about 5 minutes.
Seconds, yeah. Yep.
Or less. So what we need to overcome is this inner frustration, this inner turmoil of saying that this list is the boss of me when you're the boss of the list.
Right. So you're getting frustrated with yourself because you feel like you're not good enough, that you are not accomplishing all of these things, but really you should be getting frustrated so you're basically getting frustrated with the employee, and you really should be getting frustrated with the boss part of you for setting such high standards that you cannot even comply with. So you just need to turn yourself around and let the employee make the list.
Right. I so much wanted to say, do the hokey pokey when she said turn yourself around. Because that's what it's all about. That might help you.
That might help you. Turn yourself around and do the hokey pokey with your kids.
Well, frustration happens when our inner values don't match our outer behavior.
Right.
So what we need to do is plan that to-do list based on our values, and then our behavior needs to follow. And plus, we need to be flexible.
Right.
Even if you think you're going to do 3 loads of laundry and fold them and put them away.
Yeah. All of my laundry is sitting in my room right now.
You need to be right. You need to be flexible enough to say, hey, you know what? I started that. I'm not going to finish that today. Yeah. I'll try to finish it tomorrow, because right now I'm going to make popcorn and sit down and watch a movie with my kids.
Right. And so this is reminding me of another section. I don't think I'm necessarily going to read a quote because I don't have time to find it, but it's reminding me of another section from this book, Fit to Burst, which I highly recommend. Again, it's by Rachel Yankovic. But where she's talking about sacrificing for your family. And the first thing that she says is that you need to note that sacrifice does not mean sorrow. It does not mean, sacrifice does not mean like that you are giving, that you are sad all the time, that you are just giving so much of yourself and you're weeping. But sacrifice sometimes means,
I'm weeping.
I know, sometimes you end up weeping. But so the chapter is called The Unbaked Biscuit, and it's called that because she talks about how last year or when it hit fall time, she just wanted to be able to, her grandma used to make really good homemade biscuits, and she wanted to be able to master that for her family. But then every time she thought about it, she was like, but then the flour's going to get all over the place and the baby's going to wake up in the middle of it. So I'm not going to do it because then they'll be half finished and then I won't do it. And then they'll take up all of my day. And she kept listing all of these things that that were mentally holding her back, even though in her mind she just saw her little kids running around with her homemade biscuits in their hand for a snack, and it just made her like happy sad, like I want to do this.
So she wanted to sacrifice herself for the vision of making the biscuits.
But mentally she was holding herself back, and what she said was, you should just make the biscuits.
Right.
You should just not care about the fact that your kitchen is going to get messed up, because what you're doing is then you are really, instead of sacrificing a dirty kitchen, you're sacrificing your joy. You're saying, I'm not going to do this thing that makes me really happy because it's going to mess my kitchen up.
Right.
So you're sacrificing your joy and your children's joy, which that should not be the case. You should be joyfully sacrificing your dirty kitchen. So
and sometimes that's what sacrifice means. It means that you're going to have to clean up the kitchen because you're trying to follow your vision, and you just imagine your kids walking around with grandma's biscuits in their hands, which is a great vision to have, and it's a great thing to accomplish, and that is a great kind of sacrifice. Because, and another interesting thing is, being concerned about the baby waking up, and, I had 7 children, and I'll just take Nike's phrase as, just do it. Not everybody's going to be on board. Not every child is going to want to participate. Not everybody is going to be joyful in the moment. But I also have the benefit of many years of child rearing behind me. And I hear my adult children talking about that day that we made cookies. And it was such a fun time, and we invited all those people over, and we all made cookies. And
we dyed the kitchen counter red.
Yes, we did.
Food dye.
Amerey and I are the world's messiest cooks to begin with. So, and we're also like things neat. So I don't know why God gave us both of those things, but we both have them.
Yes.
But these kids will talk about these things all these years later, and I'll be thinking, you were the kid crying on the floor saying you didn't want to do it.
Right.
So that's a kind of sacrifice for us moms too, is just to do it no matter what, and maintain a good attitude.
Right.
Because it's going to produce a fruit of a memory, a joyful memory later.
Yes. So I guess to sum up our coffee talk, because we keep talking.
Yes, we will keep talking all day, and I hear a child opening and shutting the door.
I think that
in
they've
there.
gotten up on the counter multiple times. I can hear the stool being pushed around. But to sum it up is, don't be a mean boss. Be a boss that is kind and fair to your employee, and realize that your priorities need to be rearranged. That your first priorities should be your family, your husband, and your children. Or like mom right now is finishing her book and editing her book. Make sure those are your first priorities, and don't get frustrated with yourself for fulfilling those priorities and not fulfilling the later priorities.
Right, because you can't. And here's the truth. Everyone can't do everything.
Right.
There's no one who can do everything at once. And also, the scripture says that the Lord gently leads those with young.
Yeah.
We need to remember that the Lord's gently leading us, and be gentle with ourselves.
Yes.
And let our inner values meet our outer behavior. And when those two things come together, then we will feel more peaceful.
Right. Right.
Remember to go to the wholehouse.org for more info and blog posts, and learn more about us, and see you next time.
We're so glad you could join us here for the Whole House podcast. Please subscribe, and if you give us a review, we might pick our favorite and send you a prize. Please remember to like the Whole House Facebook page and follow us on Instagram at _whole_house. And please sign up with your email on our website, thewholehouse.org, to be notified when new things are happening here at the Whole House. Thanks so much for listening.